think it's a really touching moment for Jamie, and I think it's the sort of the love story for me, or for Jamie, this unrequited love with William. You know, there's something that does play out throughout the season. Actually, we do dig into that relationship a lot more, but at this point for him, you know, he has to love from afar, and I think for Jamie it's a real heartache. But in this moment, he gets to see his two children meet, and I think for him, you know, of course, he wishes he could be part of that meeting. But even being there in that moment, I guess, is really, really special. In that moment, I think he obviously thinks that might be it. That's it. The full extent of that interaction. But well, we'll find out later down the season that, you know, there's a lot more of Jamie and certainly William. But yeah, I guess Jamie's really proud, right? His two children have grown up and are two incredible characters. I feel like Jamie and Lord John have had a lot of these scenes where, you know, they're on opposing sides, and it is, again, another sort of, well, love that they have for each other in a different kind. And but yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard. You know, they're good friends. You know, they've been through a lot. And when you think to how it started, way back in Ardsmuir prison, they've gone on this incredible journey together. But there's so much trust and faith, certainly from Jamie's side, that he's entrusted Lord John with his son and to bring him up. But there's also this slight, I wouldn't say unease, but Jamie's aware of Lord John's, I guess, deep love for him and feelings. And I think that's always slightly put things slightly off kilter or on edge with those two. And certainly the fact that they're also on opposing sides. And I think, you know, Jamie is a man of honor, a man of his word. He's honorable and loyal. And I think for him, it's also hard to be on the opposing side with Lord John Grey, who's obviously, you know, very, very close to him, a very good friend. He thinks at this point they can't remain friends or allies. And I think it is hard, you know. As I say, Jamie's, he's also having to say goodbye to a lot of, you know, his old allegiances and his old parts of his life, right? He's saying goodbye to that. So yeah, I think Jamie this season as well is a lot more fragile. I mean, it's you know, rare that we get to see those two characters together, and I love working with Sophie. We've always had a really, I think, great chemistry in this sort of father-daughter relationship, and I think we were both looking forward to working again together. And it reminds me of going way back to when they first, you know, go and Jamie tells her about the birds and the bees, you know, and they're bee hunting. But it just, it's nice to see her grown up and for them to share this moment, and for him to be also, you know, he is always, you know, the father figure and guiding, but actually in this moment, yeah, he's more vulnerable. And I remember being very confused about how we're going to make these fireflies work in the actual filming of it. But it was such a beautiful set, a beautiful evening. Had these amazing lights all through the trees, and yeah, it's a really magical moment, I think, for those two to share. It's basically like a fishing rod with like a light on the end, and it comes down and I catch it. And then I think at some point we also just CGI'd it, and I just imagined it and then releasing it as well. Yeah, it is. You know, when I first read it, I thought, God, this is it? Are they really? I had to also look them up. I'd never seen a firefly in my life. But yeah, I think it is again, I guess, a standout scene for Jamie and his relationship with Brianna. Yeah, I think Jamie has obviously had to live without Claire many times, certainly after Culloden, and he became, you know, a shadow of himself, and he didn't want to live, actually. And I think he's had to do it before, and he would not do it again. He realizes now he has so much more to lose, and I think that's the prevailing theme this season about Jamie's vulnerability, is the fact that he now knows he has so much more to lose. I think if he loses Claire, he knows that there's no point in living. And, you know, he's having to say goodbye to Lord John Grey. He has to say goodbye to his daughter, to his, you know, grandchildren, his stepson. So I think, you know, he's losing a lot here. Yeah, and I think that's also cumulative, right? It's cumulative wounds on him. You know, we always thought Jamie has great fortitude and great strength, but it does have a toll on him. That's a good question. No, I don't think I was surprised. I think that he's always had this insight into the future in some ways, and I think, you know, even harking back to season 1, the first episode, and seeing this ghost that could maybe be Jamie or not, we don't know. I know Diana was weaving this in there. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, and I think it's maybe something to do with Jamie's having been close to death many times. He's sort of traveling, the things he's seen when he's been close to death as well. So yeah, I think there's something about him. He's not a time traveler, but certainly maybe his love or whatever it is gives him an ability to transcend his body, if that makes any sense. I think so. Maybe not always good, you know, or maybe, you know, I think Claire's the seer in some ways, but he has some abilities as well that I think we're going to explore more, definitely. I think he's surprised by it, and I can't remember if we kept the line in, but it's almost like at the end, I think we ad-libbed a bit, and it was like, let's go find the gem, or let's go, you know, because it's such it has so much value, I guess, for them especially. But yeah, I mean, it again shows, you know, like he's prepared to lose her again for her safety, for her goodwill, for her health. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And I guess it shows also that these two, they really can't live without each other. They are very codependent. But yeah, life isn't worth living without the other. So maybe even shows that their relationship has become even stronger and deeper, right? You know, from season 1, it's definitely progressed and strengthened. And now, you know, in all of its strength and security together, they also both realize that if they're without the other, there isn't anything. So that's what makes it more fragile. Firstly, a huge thing for production to work on. You know, we have this amazing set up in Scotland, this huge house that's, you know, incredible, and it's so sad to say goodbye to that set. But we also had to work out a way of obviously, you know, shooting it safely, but also because we're sort of jumping over episodes, it was a real whole process. So we actually didn't shoot some of it until later on in the season, so we could come back and shoot other scenes there. But yeah, I mean, for Jamie, it's actually, again, you know, really sad for him. He's built this home somewhere where he thought he would be safe and happy for you know, his life, and now suddenly he's lost it again. But shooting that stuff, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think never shot anything with so much fire. It was quite impressive, the amount of pyrotechnics we used, and I think both Katrina and I enjoyed getting blown up and jumping out of the building. I think the show becomes a road movie again, in a way. You know, they're back on the road, and they're displaced a little bit, and it prompts a few decisions. And I think, you know, without giving away too much, but I think, you know, Jamie makes a decision eventually down the line to return back to Scotland, and I think that is his obviously ancestral home, and where he still has a lot of let's say relationships or situations that he hasn't dealt with fully, and I guess as he's got older, he's realized he also needs to put those to rest. So yeah, it's I guess a new chapter in their lives as well. I think the stakes are higher now. It's like he's not just having to fend for himself or now his wife or his family, but it's like everyone on the ridge. But also now the stakes are so high. You know, we're dealing with the American Revolution, with the creation of a new continent, a new country, and so yeah, I think he knows that the situation is pretty grave, and a lot of lives, he's responsible for a lot of lives now. So it's a responsibility that he never really wanted. But again, of course, it always happens because I guess people are drawn to him and he assumes a lot of responsibility, especially in the military. So yeah, it's amazing that he feels the weight of that responsibility.